It's been almost 2 weeks. Let's go.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube or wherever you're going to download your podcast, never forget this show is free, and always remember how much I appreciate your support. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. So, look, we can call it 2 weeks. We can say it's been 10 days, which is more accurate. Whatever we want to call it. USC head coach Lincoln Riley, he's been looking for a new running backs coach since he found out he had to replace Coach Kiel McDonald. Coach Kyle, he's staying in LA. He's going to be coaching running backs with the LA Chargers up the street over there at SoFi Stadium. And my everyday listeners, you're probably going to remember when I told you, when I told everyone what WeAreSC.com reported last week. Remember, when I'm not here making your first day of your first listen every day on Locked On USC, I'm over there at WeAreSC.com. So last week, I informed you that Texas Christian University, TCU, running backs coach Anthony Jones Jr. was the front runner. And at that time, we were under the impression that the two sides had spoken and Jones was believed to be the top target for the position. Well, it took the next step because this past weekend, WeAreSC found out that Coach Jones and his wife, they were actually in LA over the weekend. They were getting a firsthand getting a tour, saying, you know what, this is what it would be like if you decided to take the job, where you could live in Southern California, what it would feel like working for Coach Riley. Oh, and by the way, you know, Jen Cohn would be your assistant, your athletic director. How do you feel about all that? Well, here's the latest update. According to WeAreSC.com, we are now told that an announcement on the hiring of a new running backs coach will likely come on Tuesday. Could be sooner. But everyone believes that if Jones takes the job, it's his job. He just has to kind of say, all right, I'm taking it. He's got to sign off. Now, moving from Texas to Southern California, it's more than just moving from running back coach at TCU to running back coach at USC. There's a lifestyle change. The cost of living in California is much higher than it is in Texas. So a lot of things to take into consideration. Now, does that mean that USC is going to have to, compensate him very well? Yeah, that's exactly what it means. And I think people need to take this into consideration. The California lifestyle and the cost of living, you got to take that into account. It's not for everyone. And I'm not just talking about coaches. I'm talking about recruits, players. People are wondering, why did Tackett Curtis leave after his freshman year when he started as a freshman? Remember where he's from. Manning, Louisiana is about 180 degrees different from LA. I mean, you cannot get any more different. People drive cars in Los Angeles. I think the mode of transportation when you're in Manning, Louisiana, usually going to be your 2 feet or a tractor. They have cars. They have trust me, you get the point I'm making. It's much more rural is what I'm really trying to convey here. Now, if Coach Jones does take the job, I wonder if one of his recruits from the 2024 recruiting cycle wants to follow along. Remember the name Nate Palmer? Yeah, USC was after him. In fact, if you go back into spring of last year, early summer, Many thought that USC was in the lead for to get his commitment. He ended up picking Anthony Jones over Kiel McDonald, and he stayed in Texas, chose TCU. So here's my question. Why is it taking so long? And I'm not trying to create any controversy. My question is more rhetorical. Why the need to wait until Tuesday to make an announcement? Since it's everyone's anticipating he's going to take the job. Here's my rationale. Here's what I think. I think he wants to go back home, get back to Texas, which I think he's back there by now, and give TCU a chance to kind of match the offer. And then, if they're not going to be able to match, or if they are, if he wants to take the job, I think he wants to tell his running back room in person. And you got to appreciate that. Now, I think it's safe to say that sometime while you're watching the show on Monday, sometime today, or definitely by Tuesday, everyone will know what's going to happen. I don't think we can extend this any further. Remember, spring camp starts March 19th. So here's what I think happens. I think he goes home, talks it over with his family, his wife, extended family. Then he's going to go into his office, see if he can get that final push from TCU. And because he's a really good person, I think he wants to tell his room of running backs, hey, you know what? This is a decision I had to make. What's best for me? Now, again, I'm going to assume that if the job is truly his, we're going to know sometime on Monday. We won't have to wait until Tuesday. If the longer it takes, usually that's not a good sign. Now, according to a source that I've been talking with, this person is located in Texas as well, whatever Coach Jones decides to do, it's going to start a domino effect. When Coach Anthony Jones was targeted, a lot of people in the state of Texas were kind of caught with that. Oh, really? Really? That's happening, huh? One particular coach from the state told me, if you could just imagine all the phone calls and text messages I've received about the job, both USC and TCU, everyone is trying to see where I fit in, and I don't have any answers because I don't know what's going to happen. He did end up telling me this. I've heard he's taking, referring to Coach Jones, I've heard he's taking it, but I also heard that he isn't. Man, no one really knows. So this is why I raised the question. Oh, what's taking so long? If you like the job, you like the offer, let's start leaking it out. Again, I think he wants to tell his kids first, and I can appreciate that. Now, before we end this segment, on the offensive side of the ball, where does the running backs coach kind of rank on the chain of command? On the ladder? Obviously the offensive coordinator, he stands at the top. Makes sense. Josh Henson just happens to be the offensive coordinator, but he's also the O-line coach. We know Lincoln Riley calls the plays during the game. So 2 birds, 1 stone, offensive line coach, offensive coordinator. And again, because Lincoln Riley calls the plays, this affords him the ability to say, all right, Josh Henson, you get 2 titles. And it's also why USC carries 2 wide receiver coaches, inside and outside. The outside wide receiver coach is also the assistant head coach. His name, Dennis Simmons. So if that's Lincoln Riley, number 1, Josh Henson, number 2, Dennis Simmons at 3, and we could flip-flop 2 and 3 because of the whole assistant head coaching title. Who is the next in the chain of command? Again, I mentioned Coach Riley likes 2 wide receiver coaches. On the inside, you have Luke Hewer. Then you have a tight end coach, Zach Hansen. And you have a running back coach. Well, eventually, we're going to have a running back coach. Now, after the first 3, how would you rank their importance? Here are my top 3 duties for a running back coach. I mentioned it before, but I just want to kind of let everybody know because not everybody catches every episode. Why not? Sarcasm. Please make every day your first listen. Locked on USC. Be here. So again, my top 3 duties for a running back coach: teach ball security and pass protection. How to block. Travis Dye, no blocky, no Rocky. Number 2, recruit, which leads to number 3, consistently produce what the NFL is looking for at the running back position. Coach Anthony Jones, he checks off each of those boxes. No problem there. So again, why is it taking so long when spring camp opens March 19th? Let's go. Name the running back coach. Let's start running the ball. And since the dead period is now over, let's start recruiting. We're going to look at we're going to talk about that. We're going to look at the 2024 recruiting class, the 2025 recruiting class cycle in the next segment. That's coming up right now. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. Take the 2024 Nissan Rogue. It's the perfect car for city drives and great escapes. They have the class exclusive Google built-in, which is it's always updating, giving your assistant. That way you can find and do whatever you want to do. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built in to their 12.3-inch high-definition touchscreen infotainment system screen. That's a mouthful. And the 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-side crossover for your next adventure. Want something a little bit bigger? Check out the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. It has room for up to 8 people. They have an expansive cargo capacity and advanced available capability. You can get it 4x4 if you want. You also have 284 horsepower, and you can tow up to 6,000 pounds. Yeah, that's not bad. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 stream channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So just go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Hey, just a reminder, you like what you're hearing? Don't forget to subscribe. It's quick, it's easy. Click the subscribe button on YouTube. I need you to smash that thumbs up like you're the Hulk. And don't forget to hit that bell notification button. That way you will not miss an episode. All 3 of those help this channel continue to grow, and I appreciate your help. Thanks again. Look, you know my feelings on the word, finger quotes, expectation. When you expect something and it doesn't show up, doesn't happen, you kind of feel let down. And while it's semantics, I still prefer using the word anticipation. There's less pressure, but it does recognize that a standard should be required. And we're going to talk about recruiting. So the standard at USC, what USC fans should anticipate year in and year out. So where do you anticipate the 2025 recruiting class? I know it says 2024 there in the rundown. Typo, I apologize. We're talking about the 2025 cycle. When signing day arrives, where do you think the recruiting class will rank? Look, Coach Riley, he went out and he bought an entirely new defensive coaching staff that everybody is jealous of. Antonlynn, Matt Entz, Doug Belk, and of course, we're not going to leave off the star, Eric Henderson. So what's the holdup? Why aren't recruits jumping through hoops? We're the first week of March. USC has 1 commitment in their recruiting class. I mean, they're coming off an 8-5 season. Look great in their bowl game, right? How come recruits aren't jumping in? What's it going to take? A little bit of sarcasm there, if you want to go tell. It's been reported that USC's House of Victory Collective, they're fully funded. So everything they get now is above and beyond. So does that mean they're going to be able to be competitive where and when they need to be for this class? In other words, are they going to be able to step up where they haven't been able to do that in the past? Right now, and I mentioned this a second ago, Coach Riley has his quarterback for the 2025 class, Juju Lewis. By the way, Juju was in Southern California over the weekend, getting some 7-on-7 action in. And the dead period is over now, ended over the weekend, Sunday. Juju may or may not have seen Coach Riley. What I can tell you is he will be back later this month. I told you before, he plans to be in Southern California a lot during his spring break. He'll be working out. And he'll also be on USC's campus plenty of times throughout spring camp. Excuse me. One thing I would like to hear more of, since Juju is committed, is, and I guess that will happen after he takes all of his official visits, is I'd like to see and hear more from him recruiting for this class. And I think that's when USC fans will probably feel, finger quotes, more comfortable. The USC's 2024 recruiting class, the one they just signed, that came in 18th nationally. And they were 5th in the Big Ten Conference, behind Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, and Penn State. So here is where USC fans should anticipate their recruiting class every cycle. In the top 3 of the big conference. And if you do that, you're probably going to be good enough to qualify for a top 10 class nationally. Is top 10 good enough? Well, and I asked that question because Michigan, who just won the national championship, they were stacking classes. They weren't great, but it led to a national championship. So what did their 2024 class end up? Nationally, 15th. No, they had the number 4 recruiting class in the big conference behind Ohio State and Oregon. Excuse me, they had the 3rd rate, the 3rd. Now, so is top 10 good enough? You know how I feel about this subject. Tell me who is recruiting you, and I'll tell you if you're good or not. I don't need the stars to tell me. I don't need to see 4 stars, 5 stars. I understand there's an argument there. Tell me who's recruiting you. And I also understand that, look, as much as we like to say you're recruiting for the elite recruits, you're really bidding on them in today's process, you're bidding on them. That's why I brought up NIL, being fully funded, being able to compete. So the dead period is over. Spring camp is going to have a ton of visitors. There's a brand new coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball. It's generating a bunch of enthusiasm. I've been, keeping you guys updated on guys who are planning to visit. I'll do that on another episode this week because more names are starting to roll in. In the past, when you had recruits from other parts of the country saying they wanted to visit USC, and they would always say it's because I've never been to Cali before. Now, the recruits, those elite recruits, they're not even saying, "Oh, I've never been to California before." That's not the first thing out of their mouth. The first thing that they're saying, they want to see and watch what this new coaching staff that USC brought in on the defensive side of the ball. They want to see what that's all about. What can they do for these recruits? And again, because NIL seems to be pointed in the right direction, finally, It appears that USC's 2025 recruiting cycle, even though the results don't show it with commitments, they seem to be heading in the right direction. It's a slow install. If you watch my episode of Locked on USC last week, where I was talking about Antonlynn installing his new defense, it's going to be a slow install. So let's say USC wins 9 games in 2024. And included in those 9 games, there's wins over LSU and Notre Dame, but a loss to Michigan and another hiccup along the way. What kind of class? Where should USC's recruiting class rank? Let's say USC wins 10 games, makes the conference championship game and the playoffs. Now, what should everyone anticipate for USC's class ranking? Is this going to be one of those classes where the anticipation builds up as each win stacks up the season? See what I did there? Anticipation. Remember those old Heinz ketchup commercials? Kind of like waiting for the ketchup to come out of the bottle. Anticipation. Come on. Look, or I don't, does it even matter how many games USC wins? Especially if they're not going to play that NIL game. If USC is winning and they're competitive with NIL, which I think we all anticipate happening this year, where do you want USC to finish recruiting? I understand you want the number 1 class. Let's be realistic. Where do you think USC is going to finish? Top 5, top 10? Let me know. Hit me up in the comments section. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 if your bet wins. And you can bet on all of your NBA players and teams with, check this out, they got quick bets. You want to do some live same-game parlays? You can do that at FanDuel. You want some exclusive prop bets? Only FanDuel has that, and they've got more than they got a whole bunch more than just that as well. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right. The NFL held their combine last week. And while Caleb Williams had some folks questioning his choices, his decisions, what to participate in, he didn't throw. And there were some other things he didn't want to partake in. This is what he said. I played in 30-something games, I believe. Go ahead and go watch real live ball with me and see how I am as a competitor. That was his initial answer. He's going to throw at USC's Pro Day, which is March 20th. I'll be there. And here's the thing. Because Caleb kind of picked who, what, where, and how he was going to attack the combine, there was one nitwit reporter who tried to play the role of a-hole, and he did it very successfully. He knocked it out of the park. Before Caleb actually finished getting in front of the dais, are you afraid to compete? How do you respond to people saying that you're worried to be compared side by side to your peers in medicals, measurements, and workouts? Are you afraid to be measured against those guys one-on-one? Is that why you're not doing things? People, if you watch it, you can kind of see people kind of like moving away from the guy, giving him his space. Look, you could ask that same question without being a jerk. What went into your decision making, Caleb? Why did you decide you didn't want to do these particular things? Same question. Doesn't kind of feel like you're attacking him, though, right? The biggest kerfuffle was when Caleb chose not to take part in the medical testing of the physicals. And here's his response to it. It was a decision with my family and my team, and it really came down to, look, not all 32 teams can draft me, so why give all 32 teams my personal medical? There's nothing there. I played all 30, however many games I played. I never came off the field unless my helmet came off and the refs took me off. My thing has just been to give it to the teams that are going to pursue me. Makes sense. Marshawn Lloyd, he was another competitor there at the combine, and he had a really good combine. One of the talking heads, Daniel Jeremiah, he made the comment that Marshawn could be the first running back off the board. Now, my question is that going to be day 2 or is it going to be day 3? Jeremiah said, I think he's got a chance to be the first one off the board. He's got a good combination of size, speed. He can catch the ball as well. He showed that at the Senior Bowl. Not a lot of production catching it during the fall, but he showed he could catch it there at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. You wonder why Lincoln Riley did not use Marshawn Lloyd or the running backs in the passing game more frequently. Now, let me go over some statistics here with Marshawn Lloyd. Now, I got to scroll to that. I'm sorry. Here we go. This is what Lloyd put up as far as his 40 and some other things. He ran a 4.46, which is faster than Michigan's Blake Corum, who ran a 4.53. Oregon's Bucky Irving, who had a 4.55. Remember the name Kendall Milton from Georgia? He ran a 4.62. And Notre Dame, Audric Estime, 4.71. Now, that 4.46 that Lloyd ran, that's actually faster than any of the previous USC running backs who had been in the combine. Cam Ingram ran a 4.53. Buck Allen also did the same. Ronald Jones, 4.65. If you remember on the last episode of Locked on USC, I mentioned that the last time USC had a tailback that started in the class and graduated with the class, Vavae Malapai. One of the things about Lloyd, he measured in his hands 8 inches, 8 3/4 inches. I bring that up only because he had a little bit of ball security issues. Caleb Williams, bigger hands, much bigger, like 1.5 inches bigger. Let's see, what else can I tell you about the combine for these Trojans? Oh, let's talk about Calen Bullock. You've heard me say that I think Caleb's eventually going to end up at the cornerback spot. Well, Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network says some NFL teams want to look at Caleb at cornerback. Ooh, these untrained eyes. Go figure. I kid. These were Calen's measurements. He ran a 4.54 40. That was his second attempt. His first one, he ran a 4.49. He measured in at 6'2", even, 188 pounds, arm span 32 4/8, hands 9. That's pretty good. Wingspan 78.18. So he's got some reach. I watched a little bit of the wide receivers going through their drills. Interesting. Taj Washington, Brennan Rice, solid. Both are going to get drafted. I also enjoyed watching them run the gauntlet like you're supposed to, where you're supposed to run down the line, turning to the left, catching a ball, turning to the right, catching a ball. It's coming at you, rapid fire. I also noticed Troy Franklin, the speedy, talented wide receiver from Oregon. I wonder if Ryan Pelham was watching the combine. Of those 3 wide receivers that I just mentioned, 2 ran down the line. Troy Franklin, I think he's going to have a good career in the NFL. But man, he looked like he was flunking a field sobriety test. Let's just say he had some crazy legs. Yeah, he wasn't staying anywhere close to that white line. Anyways, I'm kidding. Just throwing a little bit out there. So there you go. That's it for this episode of Locked on USC. We're already done. 30 minutes. Look at that. 30 minutes in the book. I'll be back with another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. That's what we do 5 times a week. Nobody else out there is doing that for you. So again, you like what you have here? You like the show? Help the show continue to grow. Become a subscriber. It's easy. It's free. Smash that thumbs up button. Don't forget to hit that bell notification button. And I will be back with another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. Part of the Locked on Network, your team every day. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.
You are Locked On.
Not do that.